Hi guys, this is Andrew with rockclass101.com, and in this week's ukulele lesson, I'm going to be teaching you a very pretty tune that I wrote, which helps you with syncopation. So what does syncopation actually mean? Well, in a nutshell, it means that you're accenting the weak beats in a measure. But what does that actually mean? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at a bar of eighth notes. So very simple, right? 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Now our down beats, those are our strong beats. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. Our weak beats, those are the ends. That's the end of 1, end of 2, end of 3, and you guessed it, end of 4. Now syncopation accents those hits, those weak beats, those ends. And it actually makes sense when we actually put it onto the instrument. So if you play just the A string, right, it's much easier to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. It's much easier to do what I did the first time through, hitting on the downbeats 1, 2, 3, 4, than what I did the second time through, accenting or hitting on the ends. So that's what this composition or this etude is all about. It's literally written to help you up your rhythm game, but to do it in a way that's fun, right? It's much more fun to work on syncopation with a composition than running scales or something like that. So let's go ahead and talk a little bit about how this lesson is going to be laid out. So in this video, we're going to be learning the first half of the etude. If you want to learn the second half, you can do so by clicking this link or going to rockclass101.com and doing a search for fingerpicking etude number 29. Now, also on that page will be the tabs that you can print off to follow along with, plus the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer. Now this is a great feature where you can hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time, you can highlight bars to loop sections, slow it down to any speed you wish, just a great asset in learning this song that much easier. Alright guys, so before we jump into learning this tune, there's a couple things we want to talk about real quick. The first one is that this composition is for high G, so make sure you grab the high G ukulele to follow along with. The second thing I want to talk about is our right hand approach for fingerpicking. And I think there's two methods that you can use, and either or works great. The first one is a 4-finger approach for fingerpicking. So literally thumb gets string 4, index gets string 3, middle gets string 2, ring gets string 1. Or you could use a 3-finger approach where thumb gets string 4 and 3, index finger gets string 2, middle finger gets string 1. So either or works, and it really comes down to what's best for your playing style. Now, the last thing I want to talk about is that we are going to be counting out rhythms as we go throughout this tune. So if you're new to counting rhythms, then I'm going to go ahead and put our introductory lesson to understanding rhythmic notation in the description box below. But honestly, guys, there's really no better way to learn how rhythm and timing connect than by learning to read notation. So check out our course on standard notation. I'll also link it in the description box below. All right, so let's go ahead and kick into our intro. Now, our intro has no syncopation, and there's a reason why it doesn't have any syncopation. It's really intended for your left hand to get accustomed to the chord shapes that you're going to be playing throughout this etude. So we're starting off really simple from a rhythmic standpoint, and we're just getting accustomed to what our left hand is doing. So let me go ahead and play through this intro, then we'll break it down and learn it. Sounds like this. So that's a good gist of what our first couple bars sound like. And these first 2 bars, they cycle through 3 different chords. Now take note of something. What do you notice when I play through these 3 chord shapes? They all have an open second and first string ringing out. So these are open voice chords, which have a really pretty sound. Now, let's learn these 3 chord shapes, and I have a feeling that all of us know the first one, which is an A major. So we're going to use the stock fingers, so middle and index. And to go into our second chord, which is a B minor 11, I want you to lift the middle finger up, move the index up to the 2nd fret of string 3 and place your ring finger on the 4th fret of string 4. So remember, keep the bottom strings open. Now to go to our 3rd chord, we're just going to move this shape up a whole step. So move up to 6 and 4. Keep the bottoms open as well. So in argument's sake of making this a little bit easier for me to call out, instead of calling it B minor 11 and C sharp minor flat 13, that's quite a mouthful. I'm just going to refer to these chords as B minor and C sharp minor. Much easier. So guys, I want you just to take a second to get familiar with these 3 shapes. And what you're doing right now is you're just building muscle memory. So just getting comfortable moving between the 3 shapes up and back down. You can put it into a time frame like 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So you can hit pause, try something easy, half notes like that. And when you feel comfortable, let's put the picking pattern and the rhythm to it. Now, keep in mind that our intro is not syncopated, so we're playing all 8th notes. Now, our right hand picking pattern, it's repetitive for these first 2 bars. So we have to learn it one time and we've got it for everything. So make the A chord and I want you to pick 4, 3, 1, 2. It's that simple because when we go to our next chord, B minor, we're doing the same pattern. 4, 3, 1, 2. Okay? So if I play measure 1 by itself, sounds like that. So very, very easy. Now let's go ahead and see if you and I can try that. We'll go a little bit slower though. So maybe we'll try ba da 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 ba da ba da. That's a good speed. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. As we go into our second measure, move that chord shape up. So you're at C sharp minor. And we've got the same pattern. So 4, 3, 1, 2, and then back down to B minor with the same pattern. So let's try measure 2 by itself. 3, 4. Nice. And if I cycle through 1 and 2 together, we get this. So let's you and I try that. So we'll go slow. 3, 4. Okay, now let's take a look at measure number 3 and 4. If you look at 3, you're going to notice something. You're going to notice it's identical to measure 1. So we already know how to play this. Let's skip over it and look at measure 4. So measure 4 introduces a little variation. So go to the C sharp minor, and our picking pattern is going to be straight down. So we have 4, 3, 2, but this time around, you're going to take that pinky and you're going to add it to the 7th fret of string 1. So I want you to go 4, 3, 2, 7 on string 1 with the pinky. Okay, now lift that pinky up, move the chord shape down to B minor, and you're going to do the same linear picking pattern, 4, 3, 2, but add your pinky now to 5 on string 1. So literally we're just adding an extra note to the mix and changing our picking pattern. That simple. But here's the big kicker. You don't have to add that pinky finger until it's called for in the music. So if I cycle from the start of measure 3 to the end of measure 4, watch my pinky when it gets added to 7 and added to 5. You can see that I don't add it until it's actually needed. So don't feel like you have to start measure 4 with all 3 fingers planted at the get-go. You don't have to do that. You have to add it when it's needed, okay? So let's see if we can try measure 4 by itself. We'll go nice and slow. And remember, add that finger at the end. So here we go, measure 4 by itself. 3, 4. Okay, and if we go backwards, let's try 3 into 4. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, now if I go back to the start, I'm going to cycle through these first 4 bars. This is our entire intro. And I'm going to add a little bit of a ritardando at the end of measure 4. And I'm going to add a little bit of fermata on the last note. And we'll talk about that in just a sec. But let me cycle through these 4 bars so we can have an idea of what we've covered so far. Okay, so the very last note, and we'll put up the tab again for 3 and 4. This very last note, it has a symbol above it. That's called a fermata. So you want to just linger on that last note before you go into theme 1. So it's kind of it gives a nice way to resolve the intro and kind of have a strong start to theme 1. So if we have a little bit of a ritardando plus a fermata, it builds a little bit of suspense before theme 1 starts. So don't forget to add that once you get it to the performance ready standard. So let's go ahead and jump into theme number 1. And theme 1 is where we start to see our syncopation. So I'm going to play this first measure and then we'll break it down and learn it. Okay, so the first thing is just get that stuck in your head. Try to sing it. La da 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 da. If you can sing it, you can play it. But if we look at the rhythm, and I put the rhythm hits above the tablature, take a look at the first half. You can see that it's 1 and 2 end. So we have straight eighth notes. We don't have any syncopation happening yet. Now look at the second half. We have a hit on the end of 3 and a hit on the end of 4. That's where our syncopation starts. So let's try this. I'm going to go ahead and clap and count out this rhythm, and then you and I will try it together. So it sounds like this. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So remember, syncopation starting on the latter half. Let's give that a shot together, and I want you to tap your foot along. So tap 1, 2, 3, go. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Good. Now if you can do that, you will be totally set perfectly for getting this down. Let's put it onto our instrument now. So into our A major chord. All we're going to be doing for this is literally picking out of the chord for this entire measure. So we're going to go 4, 3, 1, and then take your pinky and put it on the 4th fret of string 2. So 4, 3, 1, 4 on string 2. Remember, that's all eighth notes. 1 and 2 and. Okay, keep that pinky finger planted because it's going to last or linger into beat 3. Then you're going to hit the open A on the end of 3, lift the pinky up, play the open E on the end of 4. So it sounds like that. If I count and play 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That's what I end up with. Let's see if you and I can try that one together. So we have 3, 4. Nice. Now, here's the beauty. Once you get that rhythm down, it repeats for measure 6 and measure 7, and then measure 8 is a little bit of a variation on it. So let's go ahead and take a look at measure 6, which is out of our B minor chord. And we're pretty much doing exactly the same right hand. We're going to go 4, 3, 1, 2, then play the open A, followed by the open E. So this time around, when you're playing this B minor, take note that we use our pinky again, but we're much closer. We don't have as much of a stretch for that pinky finger. Okay? So make the B minor. We're going to go 4, 3, 1. Take the pinky, add it to the 4th fret of string 2. Keep it planted, held into beat 3. Play the open A, and then lift the pinky up, play the open E. So it's very, very similar to the A chord, just playing out of the B minor, right? So we have the same rhythm. So let's see if we can give that one a shot together. 3 and 4 and. Nice. So as we go into our 7th measure, it's the exact same thing up until the last hit. So let's look at everything up until that last hit, which you can see is a chord hit. So go up to the C sharp minor, and you're going to do the exact same right hand, 4, 3, 1. This time around, you have to use the middle finger to grab that 4th fret on string 2. So a little bit of a finger frenzy because you got to squeeze it underneath the index. So 4, 3, 1, 4th fret on string 2 with the middle. Hold that into beat 3, and then we have the open A. So 1 and 2 and 3 and. Okay, so everything's identical up until that last hit. So let's just try up until there. 1, 2, 3, 4. Nice. Now, here's what's a little bit tricky. Lift this middle finger up. I want you to go back down to the B minor chord shape and take that middle finger, place it onto the 2nd fret of string 1. So this is a tricky chord shape. And if you want to make it easier, what you can do is you can remove the ring finger and you can just strum from 3 down. You can even pluck this chord hit if you want. That sounds just as good. It's up to you, whatever fits your playing style. But if you want to go for gold and be an Olympian, go ahead and add that ring finger back. Okay? So this chord hit, it happens on the end of 4. So that rhythm is the same that we saw for 5 and for measure 6. So nothing changes. The only difference is instead of playing a single note on the end of 4, we have a chord hit. Okay, so you're doing the exact same thing if I start back at the beginning of measure 7. The only difference is I've got a chord hit at the end. And again, you can strum it or you can pluck it. Either or works, up to you. But if I cycle through that rhythm, it's the same. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so let's see if we can give that one a shot. Just 7 by itself. 3 and 4 and. So here's the kicker now. As we go into measure 8, if you look at the rhythm hits, look at the end of 1. So starting on the end of 1, if you count and clap out what happens from the end of 1 to the end of the measure, you have and, 2, and. So it's identical to measure 5, measure 6, measure 7, right? The only difference is that our first hit starts on the end of 1 instead of beat 1. So that's the only difference for this measure. So what makes it tricky is that you've got a lingering hit at the end of 7 going into measure 8. And that's what makes this piece of music so great for practicing syncopation, is that we get to work on hard things like that. It's tough to hit something, hold it into another measure, right? Because it's so natural for us to want to hit on beat 1 of every measure. So it's good practice right here. So let's start learning measure 8 by thinking of it as starting on the end of 4 in measure 7. So go back to that tough chord shape. If you want to make it easier, get rid of the ring finger. But I'm going to go ahead and keep it down just to play it as it's written for the music. And I'm just going to go ahead and just pluck this chord hit. I'm going to hold it into beat 1 for measure 8. And then I'm going to do a pull off with my middle finger to the open A string. So I've got 3 and 4 and 1 and. So that pull off happens on the end of 1. So let's try that together. 3 and 4 and 1 and. Good. Now with your pinky, take it and place it on the 4th fret of string 2. And then lift it up. Take your middle finger, put it underneath your index finger. So we're playing a double stop, 2, 2 on string 3 and 2. Okay? So those hits happen on 2 and the end of 2. So together so far we have 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. So tricky, right? Let's give it a shot nice and slow. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Nice. Now this double stop, it's going to last into beat 3. So our next hit is on the end of 3, which is back to the pinky and then back to the open A. So that's a lot to take in. Let me go ahead and play through this entire phrase so we can hear it as a whole. I think that'll make it make a lot more sense. So it sounds like this. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. So with this one, let's go really slow and we'll talk it through and work our way step by step. So start with the tough chord. We're starting on the end of 4, so we have 3 and 4 and. Hold into beat 1, pull off with the middle finger to the open A, add the pinky down to the 4th fret of string 2, then lift that up, go to the double stop, okay, hold that into beat 3, back to the pinky, on the end of 3, and then open A to finish. So it's a little tough finger frenzy, right? Let's try it and just let's see if we can stay a little bit more true to the rhythm now. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Nice. So tough stuff happening in this measure. But if you keep in mind it's the same rhythm starting on the end of 1 as the previous 3 bars, it makes it much easier to comprehend. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to play 7 into 8 so we can hear that as a whole, and then we'll backtrack and I'll play 5 through 8 so we can hear everything for theme 1. So 7 through 8 sounds like this. 3, 4. And if I backtrack to the beginning, for all 4 bars, I get this. So really cool sounding when you get it up to speed. And I also want to talk a second about when you do get this performance ready. I don't want you guys to feel like you have to play everything with this like perfect timing, because as you can hear, it sounds a little bit robotic, it sounds a little bit sterile. So while this lesson is really good for working on syncopated rhythms, we want to keep in mind that we're playing music, and music doesn't have to be so straight and narrow. So feel free to add a little bit of rubato into this. If you want to play some measures a little bit more loose, maybe speed up in some of them, that makes the music sound much more human, right? So as I cycle through the intro, you can hear, you know, I kind of swayed a little bit, but it sounds really nice. Right, so as I play through theme 1, same kind of stuff. You can hear that the theme of the rhythms are all there, but I don't have to be so locked in like a robot, you know? So keep that in mind. If you're new to rubato and you want some ideas on how to implement that into your playing, check out this lesson. Matt Dahlberg taught it, and it goes really in depth and teaches you essentially how to do it. So here's the thing, guys. Once you get to that part of theme 1, you're 4 bars in. What you're going to do is you're going to go back, you're going to play measure 5 and 6, and then you're going to jump into ending 2, which we'll put up here, and that's measure 9 and measure 10. So let me go ahead and play through these, and we'll break it down and learn what's happening. So let's break down what is happening here. So we're starting on our C sharp minor, and we've got the same beginning. So we know exactly how to play all of that. So let's look at the end of 4. It's almost the same chord that we did at the end of measure 7. The only difference is it's easier. We have an open G on top. Okay, so we have an E minor 7 for this chord hit. And again, you can strum it or you can pluck it. But that bar together, oops, if I play cleaner, sounds like that. So very similar to the 7th bar. So let's go ahead and skip over this and let's look at what happens for measure 10, because that's really the new stuff. So we're hitting on the end of 4 and then we're holding into beat 1. We saw that before, right? Then on the end of 1, we're going to take our pinky, put it onto the 4th fret of string 1 and play just a single note. Then on the end of 2, we're going to move that pinky up to the 5th fret and we're going to pluck. So keep your index finger anchored this entire time, right? So backtracking from E minor 7, 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. That's what we got so far. So let's see if you and I can try that. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Nice. Now one more move is going to happen. Lift the index finger up, move the pinky up to 7, and we're going to hit that on the end of 3. So that'll finish up that measure. So let's try from E minor 7. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, so this one's actually easier, the syncopation, because it's consistent throughout. It's the end of every hit. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So it makes it easier to get down. So that's ending number 2. Again. So that's what that second ending sounds like. All right, so let's go ahead and look at theme number 2. And theme number 2, we're going to be introducing a new chord to start it out with. So theme number 2 has its own sound. We're moving away from these 3 chord shapes that we've done before. And now we're going into a new one. So it's a D with an added 9. So not too hard, still an open voice chord. So if to fret this, add your ring to 7 on string 4, middle 6 on string 3. 2 strings underneath are open. Here's what this first couple bars of theme 2 sound like. So go ahead and make the D chord, and we're going to start with a strum on all 4 strings. Then we're going to play string 3, and then take your pinky, put it on the 7th fret of string 1, and then lift that pinky up, put your index on 4 on string 1, and I want you to strum from 3 down. You can even pluck if you want, but try to target 3 down, because if you hit 4 and 1 together, it's going to be a little bit of a clash. So to recap, we have strum 3, 7, 4. Okay, and target your hit for the last one from 3 down. Now look at that rhythm. 1 and 2 and all 8th notes, right? Look at the rhythm for the last half of this bar. You can see it's a hit on the end of 3 and a hit on the end of 4. Where have we seen 1 and 2 and? Where have we seen that before? That's right, it's the same rhythm as measure 5, 6, and 7. So the only difference here is that we're playing out of a different chord. So let's recap from the top. We have strum 3, 7, and then add the index to 4 and strum 3 down. Now at this point, I want you to add your pinky again to 7, and then we're going to move down to our E minor 7 chord. Okay, so we have. So we know that rhythm because we've done it a lot of times now. So let's see if we can try it with this measure. 3, 4. Beautiful. Now here's something that's a little bit different. When you get to this E minor 7, take a look at how long it lasts. It lasts for a dotted quarter starting on measure 12. So we're literally holding it out for quite a lengthy amount of time. So your first hit for measure 12 happens on the end of 2. And that first hit is just the first string. So keep that E minor 7 intact. Let's see if we can try 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Okay, let's try that together. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Very good. Now if you look at beat 3, you can see that it's going to be a slide up to 4 and back to 2. But something's a little funky at the start of 3. You see a tiny little 2. That's called a grace note. That's a way for us to add flourish to the music. So on beat 3, you're going to do a quick slide up to 4 and then slide back on the end of 3 and then pluck it again on beat 4. So you have 3 and 4. Okay? So let's see if you and I can try that together. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Okay? Now, here's the other thing. When you're playing this measure, watch my index finger. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. You see my index finger lifted up, right? So I don't want to keep my index finger planted down when I'm doing these slides. I want to lift it up and focus only on the melody note on string 1. Okay? So let's see if we can try that together, starting on the end of 4. Nice and slow. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. Awesome. And if I play those two bars together, this gives us a context of what the first half of theme 2 sounds like. Sounds pretty cool, right? Now, let's take a look at our next two measures, 13 and 14. If you look at 13, you can see that it starts exactly the same as 11, but look at the last hit. It goes to a different chord. It goes to a sus with a sharp 4. This is a Lydian chord. It has, well, it's often described as a heavenly sound, but I think in the context of this music, it's a little bit more whimsical or magical. Pretty cool sounding chord. I think it's a chord that comes out of left field, so that's kind of neat to throw into the music. But to fret it, all you're going to do is take the middle finger, put it on 8 on string 2, and your ring finger 9 on string 1. This time around, our open strings are above, so 4 and 3. So you're going to do that hit on the end of 4, and take a look at how it ties into measure 14. So it gets held into beat 1, and then we're back to hitting on the end of 1. So we don't have this long sustain to finish up theme 2. Instead, we're back to the short sustain. So this bar together sounds like that. Very familiar, we've done it before. So let's look at 14, and let's see if we can play to the end of it. So go ahead and make this C sus 4, C sus sharp 4, my correction. And I want you to go ahead and pluck or strum it, and we're going to start 3 hits on the first string, starting on the end of 1. So we'll start on the end of 4, 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and. Okay, so let's try that again. 3 and 4, and 1 and 2 and. Nice. Now look at beat 3. You've got another quick grace note. This time our slide is a half step. Goes to the 10th fret, back to the 9th, and then to 7 with your index. Watch this middle finger. Same rule of thumb applies as we did with the E minor 7, where that finger lifted up so I could focus on the slide. Same thing here. So when you're playing this, lift that finger up so you can focus on the slide. Okay? So let's see if we can try that one together. It's the same rhythm as we saw for the ending of measure 12. So we have 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and slide and 4. So not too hard. Let's try that. 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and slide and 4. Nice. And that entire 13 and 14 together sounds like this. So really, really cool sounding. So theme 2 just has a totally different sound in and of itself. very different sound than what we heard for the intro and theme 1. So kind of a cool little change that happens here. So guys, that's everything for this part 1 lesson. So we've learned the first half of the tune. So our part 2 lesson is going to kick off on theme 3, and it's going to teach, well, the remainder of the tune. So if you guys want to watch the part 2 lesson, you can do so by clicking this link right here, or going to the site rockclass101.com and doing a search for Fingerpicking Etude number 29. Now also on that page was the tabs that you can print off, keep for your records, plus the really cool interactive on-screen tab viewer, so you can literally hit play, you can watch that tab scroll across in real time. You can highlight bars, loop sections, slow it down, all that fun jazz. So guys, I hope you enjoyed learning this. This was a great lesson for working on syncopation. And in the part 2 lesson, we'll finish it up and put the whole song together. So I'll see you in that lesson. Take care.